Welcome to step 6 of creating a lesson. Draw the illustrations. These are a very important part of the primer lesson to help the new reader to connect a picture word with a picture and to help them learn that word. And so we want the pictures to be culturally relevant and correct. And we want them to be immediately identifiable by men and women, varying ages, occupations, and residents. Here are some pictures from the Afar primer in Ethiopia. And you can see this is a special type of basket that they use for perfuming clothes. And then this is a bride and groom that so you can see uh, look to them. So if we had a regular, like a Western bride and groom, then it certainly wouldn't be right for that primer. So we want, as we're doing the illustrations and things, they want them to be clearly labeled and given a list in the lesson, but then we also want a clear list for the artist to use. So we suggest keeping a list of lesson 1, like lesson 1A, A being the first picture word, the word in the language, and then the translation for the person who will be illustrating if it's not a language speaker or a desktop publisher. So in this case, I put English translation, but it could be French or Portuguese or Spanish or whatever kind of the main language of communication is. So 1B, lesson 2A, 2B, that kind of a list. So a very important thing, we want to use black ink with white good quality paper. The artist will do an initial draft in pencil, of course, and then the illustration will be checked with the team to make sure it's appropriate. Once the team has signed off on that, then the artist can go across with some black ink and white good quality paper. And you want to draw items in equal size rectangular shaped areas. So this is a sample here. We found the easiest way to do this is to take either A4 size paper or 8.5 by 11, whatever's local in the area, and divide it into 4 quadrants here. You can see that. And this makes a nice size for drawing an illustration. For each one would be one picture word. So for example, this is the lesson 11 in the Mashakli, and we have a bow and we have a duck or some kind of flying bird. And you can see here we've listed the Mashakli word, and then in this case it's in Brazil, so the Portuguese word that goes with that, because somebody would be doing the desktop publishing from Portuguese. Here's lesson 12 with Jesus and a road or path with the Mashakli word and then the Portuguese word. And so you can see that makes it very simple. One thing we have to remember is that we're going to be scaling these down from that size to fit into our primer lesson. So here's a sample of lesson 11 and Mashakli. You can see we went from that larger size drawing, and it's resized once it's scanned into the computer to fit into the primer lesson. So for that reason, we want to make sure that we make simple line drawings, not light or limited shading, because if it's too dark, like here, you take that larger drawing and you scale it down small, then you just get a black blob. So for instance, this is an unclear drawing. This is a deer, but you lose a lot of the distinguishing features because of all of the shading. So this is the same deer that's been redrawn with just minimal shading. You can see the difference. It's the same basic shape, but you can still tell it's a deer. But then when it's scaled down for the lesson, you'll still be able to tell what it is. The other thing we want to watch for is too much detail. In this one over here, if you look at that picture, is it a field? What is it? Well, the actual picture word was river. Well, once you know that, you can kind of tell. But so here's a cleaned up version of that. It's a little easier to tell, but it still might be better to try and find something that doesn't have quite as much field looking stuff around it. And we also want just the item, the word, picture for the word. So in this case, this is picture word is duck, and this is the picture that the initial picture that the artist drew. Well, what is it? Duck, egg, enclosure? And you're not sure. So a better picture would be just to have the single item, duck. So these are all things that you want to watch for and help your artists to understand, and as you go through the lessons. So who's going to draw the pictures? It's better, if all possible, to have a local artist drawing the pictures, so that you have somebody there who knows the culture, can draw those specific um, cultural items, those kinds of things. It's not always possible to have a local artist that can do it. You can also, we have lots of pictures in from other primers that we have available. Those are going to be on Google Drive to those. You can go through those files initially and see what you like. Some say, well, can't we just use photographs or just take pictures off the internet? And you can, but you have to be careful with that. You need to make sure that be careful of copyright if you're taking stuff off the internet. It has to be a copyright-free photograph. There's a lot of things on the internet that you can get have to pay copyright for. You want to watch the background. Make sure that there's only the picture only shows the what's equivalent to the word, like we looked about with the duck earlier. Because sometimes in a photograph you can get all kinds of background stuff that makes it hard to tell what it's about, and sometimes it doesn't print as well as a line drawing. Okay, so we'll have 32 lessons. Each will have 2 picture words, so that's a total of 64. So you basically will need 62 because lesson 26 is our capital letter lesson. Also, you'll have your 36 Bible stories, and each of the Bible stories will have 1 picture. And then we also have our health and farm stories. So you'll have probably about 150 pictures that the artist will need to draw. Then we also want a picture for the front of the primer, a very emotive picture to help the new reader, when they see the books, they'll think, that's me. So in this case, this is the cover for the Nepali primer in Nepal. And you can see it's a very cultural picture. You can tell right away that these are Nepali people. In this case, it's a family that are reading together. So the adults and the child are reading. And this picture right here is from Afar. And this is the you can tell again, it's kind of a family reading together, and this is their typical hut, and then they're a camel herding people, and this is their camel caravan, and the title for this is Journey to Reading. So it's very appropriate for that culture. This is a Mashakali cover from Brazil, and Mashakali is one of the indigenous Indian tribes in Brazil. So they have their one of their patterns that they use in some of their beadwork and other things. And you can see here some of their drawings. This is Epi in Nigeria. And in this case, they're showing that they're probably going to have their reading classes outside, and that it's related to a church. And then this is a very fancy cover, but this is from a fonte in Ghana. Originally, this was designed to be black on a just one color cover, but they had somebody that did it fancy with lots of colors. Most primers won't have it that fancy, but I just thought I would show you that. So that's the things that the artist is going to work on and things that are necessary to make the primer a success.